think in order to be more in tune with our body, let go of those trains, slow down and fine tune what exactly our body might be trying to say to us. If it's coming from, let's say, the gut or the stomach or the chest or the heart, like if that part could talk,
Yeah.
what would it say?
Our bodies can give us such clues into what we really want to do and what feels right sometimes.
Yeah. Let's get unpacking with today's dilemmas.
Yeah, let's do it.
So this is from a female in her 40s. She says, I have an important decision to make. It's like I have two voices in my head. One very excited and optimistic saying go for it. And the other one just as loud saying don't be silly, don't do it, it's not going to work out. How do I know which one to listen to?
Oh, okay. Not much context there.
No, I wonder
as
what
to
she's
what
kind of...
she's trying to do, what she's trying to decide. But very clear that she's conflicted, and she has these two voices. So, because she's not giving us much context, I want to immediately go into like problem-solving mode and thinking about pros and cons of the decision that she's trying to make, and thinking about things quite rationally and logically. Because I don't know her history and how she typically makes decisions. I think that's probably where I'd start with. So what is it that you're trying to do? Why is it that you're wanting to go ahead with it? What are the pros and cons of listening to either voice? You could start there. But then also really tap into what is your body saying. Our bodies can give us such clues into what we really want to do and what feels right sometimes. So when you can't rationally think of a decision and logically think your way through, pay attention to how does your body feel when you think about listening to one voice versus listening to the other. Does your heart rate go faster? Does it slow down? Do you feel tight in your chest? Do you clench up? Do you feel free and relaxed and at peace? I think that's kind of the first thing I want to pose back to this person. What's coming up for you?
I really like the idea of what you said about the body and, you know, working with those somatic experiences. I think, you know, there's so much research out there that's going on at the moment about gut work and about how much information lies in our gut and in the muscle memory of our body, like just in general. And paying more attention to that. I think sometimes we're so in autopilot mode and caught up in this train of thought that's just going. And often we think, right, just because I think something, it must be true. Which I'm going to come back to that one. But coming back to the body, I think in order to be more in tune with our bodies, we'll kind of have to let go of those trains, slow down and fine tune what exactly our body might be trying to say to us. Where is it coming from? I often ask my patients, you know, with their bodies, if it's coming from, let's say, the gut or the stomach or the chest or the heart, like if that part could talk, what would it say? What tone would it have? How would it speak to you? Why do you think it's trying to give you this information? What's going on there?
I think that's a good idea. It also reminds me of work that we do with children who necessarily don't have the words to express how they're feeling, but they can point to parts in their body.
This is it.
You know, they can point to sadness because they have like a lump in their throat. They can point to anxiety because they have like butterflies in their stomach or clenched fists when they're angry. So paying attention to the wisdom of your body can aid you in decision making.
And one thing like I wanted to just kind of pick up on there is I think that's quite beautiful, isn't it? Like children might not have the words, and sometimes as adults we have too many words. Right? Too many words. That's what this lady is saying. I've got two pieces of commentary going on in my head that I can't pick which one. So she's almost like at the opposite end of the spectrum here.
Yeah.
Yeah, so coming back to this idea of muscle memory in the body. So, you know, as we're developing and growing, especially like in our younger years, in our informative years, you know, we might not necessarily remember things that have happened to us or things that are said to us or experiences that we've had, but the neurons in those muscles in our body, they pick those up and they get stored. So often, like, we can have an experience that feels really familiar, but we can't necessarily recall the memory to it, but that's that real visceral bodily reaction from that muscle memory that's being stored, that's trying to give you that information. So I wonder if something like that is happening here, where she's maybe, you know, part of her is excited, she wants to go for something, but there's this like warning coming up within her, this trigger that's saying, you know, from quite a negative narrative, saying don't do it, don't go for it.
And she could tap into that to see if there is something familiar here going on. I think this reminds me of that book, The Body Holds the Score, which really looks into trauma responses and how trauma is held within the body. But I'm also thinking about these voices being very polar opposite. So one being very encouraging, very positive, and almost giving like her a can-do attitude, and the other being very critical, like don't be silly. That's quite because it's not necessarily like the words, the voice is telling her, are you sure? Do you want to think about this? The words or the tone is very, not punitive, but very critical, almost like, you know, telling her off, like, don't be silly.
Like, you can't do this. Why did you even think you could do this?
Yeah. And then what do we always like to do? We always like to think about, okay, where did that come from?
Whose voice is that?
Whose voice is that?
When did you first hear that voice?
Who do these voices represent in your life?
I also like to ask people, when you hear that, how old do you feel?
Oh, that's a good one.
Like, what age
Yeah.
do you feel when someone says that to you, or when that voice is going on?
Yeah.
And I feel like that can sometimes help tap into where they are in their lifespan, where that voice started to become quite prominent in their life.
Mm-hmm.
You know, were they like age 5, were they age 10, were they a teenager, were they in their 20s, they're learning about adulthood, they're trying out new things. So I think age is a really great way of tapping into where you might be in terms of how you're talking to yourself, and then asking yourself, you know, because she kind of said, what did she say, is this the right, I've got it here, haven't I? She asked me, how do I know which one to listen to? And I would say, well, let's put an age on both of those voices. So if the one that's cheering you on feels quite present, so she said she's in her 40s, does it feel like in your 40s? Well, what about the one that's quite negative? How old do you feel when you hear that voice? And she might say 10, or she might say, I don't know, 15. And then I guess my question to her would be, so you're 40 now, which voice feels right to you right now? Does the 10-year-old who's being spoken to feel right? Or does the 40-year-old feel right?
And another thing that we could pose to her is, you know, how, if this was someone else that was trying to make this decision and they heard a similar voice, what would you advise them to do? And how would you help them arrive at that decision? Would you use similar words? Like, would you be either one or the other? Like being like very encouraging, like, yeah, go for it, you can do it. Or would you be quite dismissive in your language, telling your friend to, like, are you sure? Like, don't be silly. Like, what feels right for you?
I feel like we already know the answer to that, don't we? Like, she's going to turn around and say, well, of course I wouldn't say that. And so many times when I've spoken to people and I put it back to them and I ask them, would you speak to a friend in this way? And they say, absolutely not. And I kind of challenge them and say, well, why not? And the answer is, well, because that's bullying. So why is it okay to bully yourself?
Yeah.
Like, where is that coming from? That bullying leads to success.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't.
No.
I actually think it leads to burnout.
Yeah, it does. It doesn't lead to anything good. And, how can you pose this question differently? Like, if you wanted to arrive at a decision and you were speaking to someone else, would you help them think about it in a more measured way, in a more compassionate way? So even if you did have concerns about the decision they were making, you'd say, okay, have you considered this? Have you considered that? What about this? And then that's very different, isn't it? That's a very different voice that you're listening to. So maybe you need to ask yourself, how can you rephrase these voices, or how can you reframe these voices
to get her to think?
To get you to
Because
think,
I guess that's what she's saying is I need to think about this decision, but the way that I'm thinking isn't necessarily helping me.
Yeah.
It's quite black and white. It's either like, woohoo, I'm supporting you, or I'm going to come down on you.
Yeah.
There's not really there's no, like, as you said, compassionate challenging.
Yeah, no. Or a more realistic voice. So when we use cognitive behavioural therapy to get people to challenge their negative thinking, we like to encourage them to think of a more realistic thought, right? So, for example, someone may have the thought, oh my goodness, I'm useless, I'm going to fail at this. It's my first time doing it. I'm terrible. I'm going to fail. So we would get them to challenge that negative belief or that negative thought, not by thinking of the complete opposite, which is, no, you're going to be amazing. You're going to be fantastic, because that's not realistic. It's what's the in-between here? How can you have a more realistic thought or belief that is compassionate, but also grounded in reality a little bit? So that voice or that thought could be, I may find this difficult because it's my first time, but I'm going to give it a go and learn from my mistakes. That's a more realistic, balanced thought to have. So maybe that's also something that is missing in this.
Yeah, the balanced thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah. I really like that, actually. I wonder if she's ever had an experience of that before.
Yeah.
Of someone showing her what that looks like.
Yeah.
Someone speaking to her in that way.
Yeah. And if she has, then it's easier to imagine that person, isn't it? And to say, okay, what would this person say in this situation?
Yeah.
And then being that person or that voice for herself.
Because the balanced voice doesn't necessarily have to have the answer.
No.
I think it's just about, as you said, it's about keeping grounded and being able to go through that experience and know that, well, I don't know what the outcome's going to be necessarily. I don't know if I'm going to fail. I don't know if I'm going to do well. But if the worst case does happen, I'll be okay.
I'll be okay. Yeah.
I think sometimes it can be hard for people to hold other people or themselves when something doesn't feel okay.
Say more.
Like you see the answer there is like, yeah, go for it. It's like, it's going to work out. Like, I know it's going to work out. Or I know it's not going to work out.
Yeah.
But that, that almost, that in between, I don't know whether it's going to work out or not, but I believe in you.
Yeah.
That you will get through it.
Yeah, it will be okay.
And I guess what I'm saying is that holding space of that unsurety, that the situation is unsure, but I'm not in you.
Yeah, that confidence. In yourself. Yeah, that's a good point, actually. Okay. Wow, I hope that's been helpful for you.
Yeah, I hope that answers at least something, because it was quite not much to it.
Yeah.
We've taken it down a few different roads.
Yeah.
But hopefully...
hopefully one of them sparks some thought for you.
What have you guys learnt today? Please let us know in the comments below. We love reading them and hearing from you. And remember to like and subscribe down below and on our socials. Thank you for joining us on the floor today, and and we're looking forward to seeing you really soon. But for now, it's bye from me, Dr. Ritz.
And bye from me, Dr. Vicky. We'll see you on the floor soon. Bye.